The M5 Pro and M5 Max MacBook Pros are set to be launching by the end of this month. Plus, we've also had a bunch of other news about more upcoming Apple products, services, and even some Apple software. So get that popcorn ready and let's take a look. But before we get into the bigger news, a quick shout out to Paperlike, which I've been using daily ever since I got my M5 iPad Pro. Drawing and note-taking feels incredible thanks to their soft, paper-feeling screen protector, which is great for general usage too. Whether I'm reading or watching content, there's no reduction in clarity, so check out Paperlike by using the link below. Now, we may as well start with the high-end M5 MacBook Pros because according to the latest leaks and rumors, these may be launching as soon as next week. That's right, on the 28th of January. But why that date specifically? Well, first off, the Apple Creator Studio has been teased and it's actually launching on the 28th of January. So what better time to release pro-level MacBook Pros than alongside a new service tailored to pros? But if you want even more reasons, then the Apple quarterly earnings call is happening on the 29th of January, literally the day after. Why does it matter? Well, Apple does tend to release some products right before their yearly earnings call, so that the products can be touched upon during the opening remarks, potentially building some more trust for the investors. That's actually what happened back in 2023 when Apple quickly unveiled the M2 Pro and M2 Max MacBook Pros via a press release in January, just days before their quarterly earnings call. So this wouldn't be unprecedented, and it does make a lot of sense. And guess what happens when a MacBook launches Imminent? Well, the products that are being replaced are starting to have their stocks being pushed back for weeks or even months. And that's exactly what's been happening with the M4 Pro and M4 Max MacBook Pros. As if you want to buy one of these custom configurations today directly from Apple in the US, you'll probably see February or even March as the shipping date. And if you want even more reasons, well, leaker Ukes1122 just released some breaking news. Samsung has actually started their mass production of the OLED panels for the upcoming M6 MacBook Pros way ahead of schedule. Why does this matter? Well, these panels were not expected to enter manufacturing until the second half of 2026, leading to that potential delay of the OLED MacBook Pros launching in 2027 instead of late 2026. But since they've already entered mass production, this means we could realistically see the M6 OLED MacBook Pros launching at the end of the year without any delays. And this wouldn't be a first for Apple to release multiple versions of the same MacBook in the same year. For example, back in 2011, they had early and late 2011 MacBook Pro models. Then in 2023, we had both the M2 Pro and the M3 Pro MacBook Pros released. And even the 2020 Intel MacBook Air and 2020 MacBook Pros were shortly followed by the M1 2020 MacBook Air and the M1 2020 MacBook Pro. So they've done this before. So yeah, having an M5 Pro MacBook Pro in early 2026, which would then be followed by an M6 Pro MacBook Pro with OLED in late 2026, is entirely possible. We do actually have a way more detailed video on everything to expect from these new MacBook Pros, which you can watch right here. Now, we've also had reports of the brand new upcoming Studio Display 2 that was spotted in a regulatory database. In short, an unknown Apple monitor with the model number A3350 surfaced in a Chinese regulatory database. This is very likely the next generation Studio Display or Pro Display XDR. And while the listing does reveal that this new monitor has an LCD display, it doesn't really go into much more detail. And since both the Studio Display and the Pro Display XDR, they do use LCD displays, this can be either of them. Keep in mind that even if we're talking about mini LED panels, those are still technically LCD. And just for reference, the current Studio Display was filed in the exact same database around 2 to 3 months before it officially launched. So this could be a good hint, which means that we could see this new monitor around March or April at the same time as the new Mac Mini and the new Mac Studios, which would make a lot of sense. As for the specs, I'm expecting a mini LED display, possibly with ProMotion, higher brightness, and also HDR support, and improved contrast ratio alongside an upgraded chip. Because, fun fact, the current Studio Display uses an A13 chip with 16 gigabytes of storage, just like the iPhone 11 Pro. But of course, even if we don't get all of those upgrades, I do hope that we will see a mini LED panel because we'll get much deeper black levels, a much higher brightness, and like I said, proper HDR support, which will make our wallpapers look better than ever. I mean, I'm using our latest Resonant Radiance pack by Hanin on my Studio Display. and it just looks incredible. I cannot imagine how good this will look on a mini LED panel. Anyway, you can download this wallpaper in 8K from our Apple Wallpapers using the link below. Now, speaking of the iPhone, the budget iPhone 17e has just entered production, according to Smart Pikachu on Weibo, a well-known Android leaker. This is likely to have the same design as the iPhone 15, so it would use a 6.1-inch panel with thicker bezels than what we have on the current iPhones, but we're also getting a dynamic island alongside possibly a lower clocked or binned A19 chip. Last year's iPhone 16e entered production at roughly around the same time, and it was announced on the 19th of February, so the 17e could follow a similar pattern. Now, speaking of the dynamic island, it may actually be going away on this year's iPhone 18 Pro and 18 Pro Max, at least to some extent. As according to a report from ET News, the new iPhones could use a display technology from Samsung, LTPO+, which is way more efficient than the current displays. And on top of that, it may also use a brand new under-the-display infrared technology that puts the Face ID infrared sensors under the iPhone 18 Pro's display. This has been confirmed by multiple other leakers, including Jon Prosser in his latest video. However, unlike what Jon Prosser's video showed, the front camera will apparently not be in the corner, but rather in the middle like it is now. It's just that the dynamic island itself will be getting smaller. But anyway, we will have an updated iPhone 18 Pro leaks rumors video coming very soon, so make sure that you're subscribed for that. Next up, we've also got some updates on the Apple Card, which after years of partnership with Goldman Sachs, Apple will be moving to JPMorgan Chase as the issuer of the card. And according to a press release from Chase, there are no plans to make any changes to the credit card yet, so you can still enjoy the up to 3% daily cashback, the easy-to-use tools, and the Apple Card family options. So if you're currently using an Apple Card, you don't need to worry about anything yet. I personally just hope that we will see the card here in the UK too, sooner rather than later. Now let's move on from the card to the AirPods, because we've actually had a new firmware update on the AirPods Pro 3s only, going from version 8B30 to 8B34. You can easily check which version your AirPods are on by going into the settings and then tapping on the AirPods Pro and scrolling all the way down to version. If you're still on an older version, simply place them near your iPhone, plug them in, and they should update automatically within a few minutes. As to what this new firmware brings, Apple just simply states bug fixes and improvements on their official website, but I've noticed them connecting a bit faster to my Apple devices, although this could just be a placebo effect. And speaking of firmware updates, iOS 26.3 is also just around the corner, and it is expected to roll out by the end of January, possibly even early next week, alongside the new MacBook Pros. And just like most 0.3 updates, this one isn't about flashy new features. Instead, it's very much a refinement update, focused on stability, performance, and polishing what Apple already introduced in iOS 26. So far in the betas, we've seen bug fixes related to notifications, background apps, and system animations, alongside some smaller tweaks to Apple Intelligence prompts and system behavior. There are also some handset improvements to cross-platform messaging, especially around RCS reliability, but nothing that Apple has officially highlighted yet. Aside from this, iOS 26.3 also introduces a new tool that makes switching from an iPhone to an Android way easier. You can now start a transfer during the setup process without needing to download a separate app. Interesting that they've now made it easier for you to switch away from the iPhone, right? But anyway, if you're already on iOS 26, this is one of those updates you'll probably want to install right away, not because it changes how your iPhone works, but because it should make it work better. Switching up the gears, did you guys know that Tesla is one of the very few car manufacturers that doesn't support CarPlay? They've got a fantastic screen that, according to Marquez's latest video on his autofocus channel, is probably the best one on the market, being very bright, very responsive, and very sharp as well. And even so, it doesn't support CarPlay. But now that's about to change, according to a report from Mark Gurman. While we still don't know when exactly this is coming, we do know that it is in the works, and that's great news. David from my team has been test driving a Tesla lately, since he's actually considering getting one, and he mentioned that the lack of CarPlay turned out to be the biggest downside to him. Same for my case, I don't actually drive right now, I don't need a car, but if I were to get one, I would probably get a Tesla. But at the same time, not having CarPlay would be a huge disadvantage for me. So if you own a Tesla, let me know down below, how do you guys feel about having CarPlay in the future on that beautiful screen? But yeah, there you go. These were some of the smaller Apple updates that don't really need a full video. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this Apple Roundup. And if you want to see more of these videos, then do subscribe to the channel and leave a like as well. I'm Daniel, this is ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH signing out. Cheers.